The cargo ship moved slowly through the dark space near the human colony. Inside the ship, Captain Vrelix looked down at the creature sitting on the metal floor. The captain was tall and looked like a giant insect with shiny green skin. His crew stood behind him, all making clicking sounds with their mouths. "This thing is so ugly," Vrelix said to his crew. "Look at that wet nose. Look at all that fur everywhere. It sheds on everything." The creature was a dog, a golden retriever named Max. His fur was golden yellow and his eyes were brown and kind. Max looked up at the aliens and wagged his tail. He did not understand why they sounded so angry. 3 months ago, the Crixians had bought Max from a bad dealer on one of Jupiter's moons. They thought having an Earth pet would make them look important. They thought other aliens would think they were special. But Max was not what they expected. He needed attention. He wanted to play. He followed them everywhere and wanted them to love him back. "This animal is too much work," another crew member said. "It wants food all the time. It makes noise. It wants us to touch it." Vrelix made a decision. "We will leave it at the human station. Let the humans deal with their own mistake. This creature is a genetic failure." The ship docked at New Haven Station. It was a small space station far from Earth. Only 20 humans lived there. The station was used for checking ships and doing repairs. It was quiet and lonely. The Crixians opened the airlock door. They pushed Max out onto the cold metal platform. Max turned around confused. He tried to go back inside, but the door closed. He heard the ship's engines start. He watched as the ship flew away into the darkness. Max sat down on the platform. He waited. Dogs are loyal. Dogs always wait for their owners to come back. He did not understand that they were never coming back. The first day passed. Max stayed in the same spot. He was thirsty, but there was no water. He was hungry, but there was no food. The station was automatic in this section. No humans came by. The second day was harder. Max's tongue hung out and he breathed fast. He was very thirsty now. His stomach hurt from hunger. But still he waited. Maybe his owners would come back. Maybe they just forgot about him. The third day, Max could barely move. He lay on the cold floor. His eyes were half closed. He did not even lift his head anymore. He had given up hope. Danny Martinez started his morning shift at 6 o'clock station time. Danny was 28 years old with dark hair and brown eyes. He worked as a maintenance technician. His job was to check all the different sections of the station and fix anything that was broken. Danny walked through the docking area with his tool bag and coffee. He was tired. Working in space was boring most of the time. Nothing ever happened at New Haven Station. The same routine every single day. Then he saw something on Platform 7, something golden and furry, something that was not moving. "Oh no," Danny said. He dropped his coffee and ran. Max was lying very still. Danny knelt down next to him and touched his fur. It was warm. The dog was still alive. "Hey buddy, hey, can you hear me?" Danny said softly. He picked up Max carefully. The dog was heavy, but Danny did not care. He ran as fast as he could to the medical bay. The medical bay was small. It was meant for humans, not dogs, but Danny did not know what else to do. He put Max on the table and found the emergency water supply. He held Max's head up and let a little water drip into his mouth. Max's tongue moved. His eyes opened a little. He drank some water. "That's it, that's good," Danny said. His hands were shaking. "You're going to be okay." Danny spent the next 2 hours taking care of Max. He gave him water slowly. He found some food from the station kitchen and made it soft so Max could eat it. He brought blankets and made a bed on the floor. Max was too weak to do anything but lie there and breathe. Danny called his supervisor, Helen Price. Helen was the station commander. She was 50 years old with gray hair and a serious face. She ran New Haven Station like a military base. "Commander, we have a situation," Danny said on the comm. "Someone left a dog on the docking platform. An Earth dog. He's in bad shape." Helen arrived at the medical bay 10 minutes later. She stopped in the doorway and stared at Max. "A dog? Here? How?" "I don't know," Danny said. "But look at him. Someone just left him here to die. What kind of person does that?" Helen walked closer and knelt down next to Max. She reached out and touched his fur gently. Max's tail moved just a little bit. Even though he was weak and hurt, even though humans had not helped him before, Max still trusted them. "We need to report this," Helen said. "This is not normal. Someone abandoning an Earth animal in space? That is a serious matter. Within hours, everyone on the station knew about Max. People came to visit during their breaks. They brought food and toys. They wanted to help. One woman brought her pillow from her quarters so Max would be more comfortable. A man brought his spare blanket. But Max stayed close to Danny. When Danny had to leave for work, Max tried to follow him on shaky legs. When Danny came back, Max wagged his tail so hard his whole body moved. Danny had saved him. Danny was his person now. Commander Helen sent a message to Earth Command that night. She wrote it carefully. Alien species abandoned Earth dog at our station. Dog is recovering. We need guidance on how to proceed. The answer came back faster than expected. It was from Admiral Franklin Stone himself. Admiral Stone was one of the most important people in Earth's space military. Helen read the message twice to make sure she understood it correctly. Keep the dog safe. We are sending a diplomatic team immediately. This situation requires our full attention. What happened to that dog matters more than you know. Helen looked at Danny, who was sleeping on the floor next to Max. The dog's head was resting on Danny's arm. Both of them were snoring softly. She did not understand why Earth Command cared so much about one abandoned dog, but she had a feeling everything was about to change. 2 weeks later, a large ship arrived at New Haven Station. The ship was called the Horizon. It was white and silver and much bigger than any ship that usually came to the station. Everyone stopped their work to watch it dock. Danny stood in the docking bay with Max sitting next to him. Max looked much better now. His golden fur was shiny and clean. His eyes were bright. His tail wagged as he looked around at all the new people. Danny kept one hand on Max's head. He felt nervous about the important visitors. The airlock opened and 2 people walked out. The first was a woman in her 40s with red hair tied back in a tight bun. She wore a white coat with many badges on it. The second was a man in a military uniform. He was tall and had short gray hair and a scar on his left cheek. He looked like someone who had seen many battles. I'm Dr. Lisa Grant, the woman said, shaking Danny's hand. I'm a xenobiologist. I study how different species interact. And this is Commander Jake Murphy. Jake shook Danny's hand too. His grip was strong. Then he looked down at Max. His serious face changed. He smiled and knelt down. Hey there, buddy, Jake said. Max immediately walked over to him, tail wagging. Jake scratched behind Max's ears and the dog leaned into his hand. You've been through a lot, haven't you? He's a good dog, Danny said. Best dog I've ever met. I don't understand how anyone could just leave him. Lisa was already taking out her equipment. She had scanners and cameras and a data pad. That's what we're here to find out. Can I examine him? Danny nodded. They took Max to the recreation room, which had been cleared out for Lisa to use as a temporary lab. For the next 3 days, Lisa ran tests on Max. She watched how he played. She gave him puzzles to solve. She recorded how he reacted to different sounds and movements. She measured his brain activity when Danny came into the room versus when strangers came in. Jake spent his time reviewing security footage and talking to the station crew. He found the recording of the Crixian ship docking and leaving. He saw the timestamp showing Max had been alone for 3 days. He interviewed Danny and Commander Helen about everything they knew. On the 4th day, Lisa called Jake into her makeshift lab. She looked excited and angry at the same time. Jake, look at this, she said, showing him her data pad. The screen was filled with charts and numbers and brain scans. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, Jake said. I'm a soldier, not a scientist. Lisa took a deep breath. Max is incredibly intelligent. Not just for a dog. For a companion species in general. Look at these emotional intelligence scores. He can read human emotions better than some aliens can read their own species. He solves problems. He learns new things quickly. He forms deep emotional bonds. She pulled up another screen. The Galactic Council has rules about companion species. Any creature that shows certain levels of intelligence and emotional bonding gets special protection. Max meets every single requirement. Actually, he exceeds most of them. Jake leaned forward. Are you saying dogs should have been protected this whole time? Yes. When Earth joined the Galactic Council 20 years ago, we should have registered dogs as a protected species. I don't know why we didn't. Maybe we thought it was obvious that we valued them. Maybe we didn't think we needed to. But legally, we should have. So the Crixians abandoning Max is a violation of galactic law, or it would be if dogs were registered. which they should have been. Lisa's hands were shaking. Jake, this is big. This is not just about Max, this is about every dog, every pet, every companion animal on Earth. That evening, Jake sent an encrypted message to Admiral Stone on Earth. He explained everything Lisa had discovered. He attached all of her research data, then he waited. The answer came back in less than an hour. Jake read it and looked up at Lisa with wide eyes. Admiral Stone says to proceed with a formal complaint to the Galactic Council. He wants us to make this public. He wants the whole galaxy to see what happened to Max. Lisa sat down slowly. This is going to cause a huge diplomatic incident. Good, Jake said. His voice was hard. Maybe it should. They left a dog to die in space. They called him ugly. They called him a genetic mistake. If that doesn't deserve a diplomatic incident, I don't know what does. Over the next week, they prepared their case. Lisa organized all her research. Jake gathered statements from Danny and the station crew. Commander Helen provided the security footage. They built a complete timeline of everything that happened. Danny spent his time taking care of Max and trying not to worry. Max did not understand any of the big important things that were happening. He just knew that Danny was his friend, and that there were lots of new people who wanted to pet him. Life was good as far as Max was concerned. One night, Danny sat on the floor of his quarters with Max lying next to him. He stroked the dog's soft fur and talked to him quietly. They're going to take you to the Galactic Council, boy. It's this big important place where all the aliens meet. Lisa says you're going to help change laws. Can you believe that? You're going to be famous. Max's tail thumped on the floor. He did not care about being famous. He cared that Danny's voice was kind and that Danny's hand felt good scratching behind his ears. I'm going to come with you, Danny said. They asked me to come as a witness, to tell everyone what happened, so we're going on a trip together. How about that? Max licked Danny's face. Danny laughed and hugged the dog tight. Lisa found them like that an hour later. She knocked on the open door. We leave tomorrow, she said. The council has agreed to hear our case. It's being fast-tracked because Admiral Stone called in some favors. Are they going to rule in our favor? Danny asked. Lisa looked at Max, who was now rolling on his back so Danny could rub his belly. How could they not? Look at him. He's perfect. Anyone with eyes can see that the Crixians were wrong. But Jake, standing behind Lisa, looked more worried. Don't be too sure. The council has 47 member species. Some of them don't have companion animals. Some of them might not understand why this matters. We need to be ready for anything. The next morning, they all boarded the Horizon. Max got his own special seat with a harness to keep him safe during the flight. He seemed to enjoy the trip, looking out the window at the stars with his tongue hanging out in a happy expression. As they flew toward Unity Station where the Galactic Council met, Lisa reviewed her presentation one more time. Jake checked his uniform and his notes. Danny held Max's paw and tried to stay calm. None of them knew that they were about to start something that would change the entire galaxy. They just knew that Max deserved justice, and they were going to make sure he got it. Part 3 Unity Station was the biggest structure Danny had ever seen. It floated in neutral space between 3 solar systems. The station looked like a giant silver wheel with thousands of lights. Ships from every corner of the galaxy came here. This was where the 47 species of the Galactic Council met to make decisions that affected everyone. Danny walked through the corridors holding Max's leash. His mouth hung open as he stared at all the different aliens around them. There were tall ones and short ones. Some had fur, some had scales. Some looked like they were made of crystal or smoke. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, some floated in the air. Max seemed interested in all of them, his tail wagging as he sniffed the strange new smells. Stay close, Jake said. He walked in front, his military uniform crisp and clean. Lisa walked beside Danny, carrying her data pad and looking nervous. They entered the council chambers. Danny's breath caught in his throat. The room was enormous, shaped like a half circle that went up and up. Each species had their own section with seats and equipment. In the center was a large platform where people could stand and speak. Above everything was a clear dome showing the stars outside. There must be 1,000 aliens in here, Danny whispered. 1,236, Lisa corrected, plus support staff. This is the biggest council session in 5 years. Word about the case had spread quickly. Everyone wanted to see the human who would speak about the abandoned dog. Everyone wanted to see the dog himself. They took their places on the central platform. Jake stood tall and confident. Lisa arranged her equipment. Danny sat in a chair with Max beside him. The dog sat calmly, looking around with curious eyes. A being floated down from the highest seat. It had silver skin and forearms and moved with slow grace. This was Arbiter Thondal, the leader of the council. When Thondal spoke, everyone in the galaxy listened. "This council session is now in order," Thondal said. The voice was neither male nor female, but somehow both. It echoed through the chamber, even though Thondal spoke quietly. "The humans have brought a complaint against the Crixian Collective. We will hear their evidence." On the other side of the chamber, the Crixian section buzzed with angry clicking sounds. Danny could see a group of the insect-like aliens sitting together. Captain Vrelzix was not among them. He had refused to come. Lisa stood up and walked to the front of the platform. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "Honored council members, thank you for hearing our case. I want to introduce you to Max." She gestured to the dog. Max's ears perked up when he heard his name. Several aliens leaned forward in their seats to get a better look. Max is a member of the species Canis lupus familiaris. On Earth, we call them dogs. For 15,000 years, dogs have lived with humans. They are not just animals to us. They are our companions, our helpers, our friends, and our family. Lisa activated her holographic display. Images of dogs appeared in the air above the platform. Dogs herding sheep. Dogs pulling sleds. Dogs guiding blind people. Dogs sitting with children. Dogs sleeping on beds next to humans. Dogs have been part of human civilization longer than written language, Lisa continued. They helped us hunt. They protected our homes. They warned us of danger. They gave us comfort when we were sad. They celebrated with us when we were happy. We evolved together. We shaped each other. She pulled up Max's test results. Charts and graphs filled the air. But dogs are not just emotionally important. They are intellectually remarkable. Max here can understand over 160 human words. He can read human emotions by looking at faces. He can solve problems. He can learn new skills. He feels joy, sadness, fear, and love. Lisa's voice grew stronger. By every measure that this council uses to determine protected companion species status, dogs qualify. Their emotional intelligence exceeds minimum requirements by 40%. Their problem-solving abilities rank in the top tier. Their capacity for interspecies bonding is among the highest ever recorded. She paused and looked directly at Arbiter Thondal. Yet humanity never registered dogs with this council. We made a mistake. We assumed everyone would understand that dogs were precious to us. We thought it was obvious. Now Jake stood up. He walked to stand beside Lisa. 3 months ago, Captain Vrelix of the Crixian Collective purchased Max from an illegal dealer near Jupiter. The Crixians kept Max for 3 months. Then they decided he was too much trouble. They called him ugly. They called him a genetic mistake. Jake's voice turned cold. They abandoned him on a remote human station. They left him there with no food and no water. They flew away and never looked back. Max waited for them for 3 days. He almost died. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the Crixians had stopped clicking. Jake played the security footage on the holographic display. Everyone watched as the Crixian ship docked. Everyone saw them push Max out onto the platform. Everyone saw the ship leave. Then the display showed Max sitting alone, waiting, getting weaker each day. Several aliens made sounds of distress. In the Velcrin section, a large being with blue fur put all 4 of its hands over its face. "We have the audio recording from the Crixian ship," Jake said. "We obtained it through legal intelligence channels." He played it. Vrelix's voice, translated into every language in the chamber at once, filled the air. "Leave it here. The humans can deal with their own genetic mistakes." The reaction was immediate and loud. Aliens shouted in their seats. The Velcrin delegation stood up, their fur bristling with anger. Even the usually calm Solari ruffled their feathers and made harsh screeching sounds. The Crixian representative tried to stand and speak. "It was just a pet. We bought it legally. We had the right to." "You had no right." The shout came from the Velcrin section. The large blue being who had covered their face now pointed at the Crixians with all 4 arms. "You took responsibility for a life. You cannot simply throw away a life because it is inconvenient." Other voices joined in. The chamber erupted into chaos. Arbiter Thondal raised all 4 arms and the room fell silent again. "There will be order," Thondal said firmly. The Arbiter floated down to the platform. Thondal moved toward Max slowly. Danny tensed, ready to protect the dog if needed. But Max simply stood up, tail wagging, and walked over to meet the Arbiter. Thondal knelt down, which was something the Arbiter almost never did. One silver hand reached out and gently touched Max's head. Max sat down and leaned against the Arbiter's leg, the way he did with Danny when he wanted affection. The chamber held its breath. Thondal looked at Max for a long moment. Then the Arbiter stood and faced the council. This creature shows trust even after betrayal. This creature shows love even after abandonment. This creature possesses qualities that many of us spend lifetimes trying to learn. Thondal's voice carried to every corner of the chamber. The Crixians were wrong. Not just legally, morally. The Arbiter turned to face the full council. I call for an immediate vote. First, shall this council grant protected companion species status to all members of Canis Lupus Familiaris? Second, shall we find the Crixian collective in violation of companion species protection accords? Third, what shall be the penalty? The voting took less than 5 minutes. Each species registered their vote electronically. The results appeared on the main display. For protected status, 46 votes yes, 1 abstention. The Crixians had abstained. For violation of accords, 45 votes yes, 1 abstention, 1 vote no. The Crixians voted no. Arbiter Thondal announced the penalties. The Crixian Collective will pay 10 million credits to Earth's animal welfare organizations. Captain Vrelzix is banned from human space for life, and the Crixians must issue a formal apology, not to the human government but to Max himself. The Crixian representative stood. This is absurd. Apologize to an animal? To a recognized companion species, Thondal corrected. You will apologize or face further sanctions. The Crixian sat down, defeated. Danny looked at Jake and Lisa. They were both smiling. They had won. Max was protected now. All dogs were protected, but none of them realized that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had just learned about dogs, and the galaxy was about to fall in love. Part 4. The news traveled faster than any ship could fly. Within hours, every planet in the galaxy knew about Max and the trial. Within days, something completely unexpected started happening. Ambassador Victoria Lane sat at her desk on Unity Station and stared at her computer screen. She could not believe what she was seeing. Her assistant, Kevin Brooks, stood next to her with an equally shocked expression on his face. How many messages now? Victoria asked. 217, Kevin said. And more keep coming every few minutes. Victoria opened another message. This one was from the Solari Confederation, the bird-like aliens who usually kept to themselves and rarely talked to other species. The message read, We wish to learn about dogs. We watched the trial. We saw Max. He reminds us of the Kriala, companions we lost in our civil wars 300 years ago. We miss them greatly. Perhaps your dogs could help us heal. Perhaps we could understand each other better. Victoria felt tears in her eyes. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. She had never seen anything like this. Kevin, what's happening? I think, Kevin said slowly, I think the galaxy just realized they've been missing something important. Down on the observation deck of Unity Station, something beautiful was taking place. Danny had brought Max for his daily walk. They did this every morning and evening, but today was different. A crowd had gathered. Aliens from dozens of species stood watching Max play. Danny threw a ball and Max ran after it, his golden fur shining under the station lights. He brought the ball back and dropped it at Danny's feet, tail wagging. A small alien child approached slowly. The child was Matharian with green scales and large yellow eyes. The child's parents stood nearby, looking worried. Their species did not usually trust other species easily. Danny saw the child and knelt down next to Max. He put his hand on the dog's head. Sit, Max, he said gently. Max sat immediately, perfectly still. The Matharian child reached out one small hand. The parents tensed, ready to pull their child back. But the child touched Max's fur and gasped. Soft, the child said in broken universal language. So soft. Max's tail wagged slowly. He knew to be gentle with small creatures. The child giggled and patted Max's head. The parents stared in shock. Then the mother started crying. She knelt down next to her child and looked at Danny with tears running down her scaled face. Thank you, she said. Our child has not spoken since losing their sibling 2 months ago. You have given us a miracle. This scene repeated itself over and over in the following days. Species that had never shown interest in Earth before, were now sending diplomatic requests. Everyone wanted to know more about dogs. Everyone wanted to meet them. Everyone wanted to understand this bond between humans and their companions. Dr. Lisa Grant found herself leading special presentations at the Xenobiology Institute. She stood in front of hundreds of scientists from across the galaxy and explained human-dog relationships. "What we're witnessing is unprecedented," Lisa said. "The trial of Max has opened a conversation that should have happened decades ago. We're not just talking about dogs anymore. We're talking about the value of companionship itself. We're talking about emotional bonds between species." A Threnian scientist who looked like a being made of crystal raised one of their many limbs. "But Dr. Grant, my species consumes meat similar to Earth dogs. How do we reconcile this philosophical difference?" Lisa smiled. "That's the beautiful part. We don't have to have the same values to respect each other's values. You don't have to love dogs. You just have to understand that we do. And in return, you can teach us about your own companions, your own bonds." The Threnian scientists seem to consider this. "We have crystal beetles. They are small, but they bond with us for life. When they die, we carry their crystals as memory." "Exactly," Lisa said. "Every species has something precious. Now we're finally talking about it. Now we're finally sharing." Back on Earth, the news caused its own wave of change. The World Canine Protection Agency was established with the 10 million credits from the Crixian fine. Dogs that had been mistreated or abandoned were rescued and cared for. Training programs were created to prepare dogs and handlers for space travel and diplomatic missions. A man named Charlie West became the head of the new agency. He was 60 years old and had worked with dogs his entire life. When he heard about Max's story, he cried for an hour. Then he got to work. "Every dog is a Max," Charlie told his team. "Every single one deserves protection and love. We're going to make sure they get it." Meanwhile, requests for cultural exchange programs poured in. 17 species wanted to start dog breeding and training programs. 8 more wanted to introduce humans to their own companion species. The Velkrin invited Earth diplomats to their homeworld to meet their moon cats. These were large feline creatures with 6 legs and fur that glowed in the dark. They were fiercely loyal and had been companions to the Velkrin for 10,000 years. The Solari showed humans their memory birds, small flying creatures that could repeat any sound they heard, and formed lifelong bonds with a single Solari partner. The quiet Endari, a species that lived underwater, revealed their singing eels, beautiful creatures that produced music and could sense their partner's emotions through the water. Each species had their own story of companionship. Each species had their own treasured bonds. Max's trial had given them all permission to talk about it, to celebrate it, to share it. On Unity Station, the observation deck was transformed. Areas were created for different species to interact with various companion animals. A Velkrin mooncat purred in one corner. A Solari worked with a border collie, teaching it to herd small objects. A Threnian carefully carried a crystal beetle that pulsed with gentle light, and in the center of it all was Max, still the same happy dog he had always been. He did not know he was famous. He did not understand that he had changed galactic politics. He just knew that there were lots of people who wanted to pet him and play with him, and that was fine with him. Victoria watched from her office window and smiled. Commander Jake Murphy stood beside her. 5 new treaties signed, Jake said. 17 species have joined the Companion Species Protection Alliance, and we have exchange program applications backed up for 6 months, all because of one dog. Not just one dog, Victoria corrected, because of what that dog represents. Unconditional love, loyalty, trust even after betrayal. Those are powerful things, Jake. Those are things worth protecting. Jake nodded. Admiral Stone was right. This changed everything. In a cell on a council enforcement station, Captain Vrelik sat alone. He watched the news broadcasts on a small screen. Every channel showed Max. Every channel showed humans and their dogs. Every channel showed the galaxy learning about companionship and emotional bonds. Vrelitics had never understood these concepts before. The Crixians did not have companions. They had never needed emotional bonds. They were a practical species. They valued efficiency and logic. But watching a Matherian child laugh while hugging Max, watching a Velkrin cry while introducing their mooncat to a human, watching species that had barely spoken to each other now sharing their most precious relationships, Frelix felt something strange. It was regret. He had called Max ugly. He had called him a genetic mistake. He had thrown away something precious without even realizing its value. The Crixians would have to apologize to Max. The council had ordered it. Frelix did not want to do it. But maybe he should. Maybe he needed to understand what he had done wrong. Maybe there was something to learn from a creature with a wagging tail and trusting eyes. Maybe the humans knew something the Crixians had missed for their entire existence. Maybe love was not weakness after all. 6 months had passed since the trial. New Haven Station looked completely different now. The small forgotten outpost had become the interspecies companion cultural center. Ships arrived every day bringing visitors from across the galaxy. The station had been expanded 3 times to handle all the traffic. Danny Martinez stood in what used to be the empty cargo bay and looked around in wonder. The bay was now a beautiful garden with real plants and flowing water. Different sections were designed for different species and their companions. There were warm areas for creatures that liked heat, cool areas for those that preferred cold, water sections for aquatic species, even a zero-gravity zone for species that floated. "Hard to believe this is the same place," said a voice behind him. Danny turned to see Commander Jake Murphy. Jake was leaving today, returning to Earth for his next assignment. He looked proud as he gazed around the transformed station. "You did this, Jake," Danny said. "You and Lisa made this happen." "No," Jake corrected. "Max did this. We just told his story. He did the rest." Max walked over to them, his nails clicking on the floor. He was wearing a special collar now, a gift from the Galactic Council. It had small gems embedded in it, one from each member species. Max did not care about the fancy collar. He cared that Danny was there and that Jake was giving him ear scratches. Lisa Grant approached them carrying her data pad. She looked tired but happy. She had barely slept in 6 months, too busy documenting everything that was happening. "The latest numbers are incredible," Lisa said. "Aggression between species on this station has dropped by 40%. Diplomatic tensions across the galaxy have eased. We're seeing cooperation between species that have barely spoken in centuries, all because they're bonding over their companions." "It's amazing what a little love can do," Danny said, patting Max's head. In the garden area, a group of young Velcrin were playing with 3 golden retriever puppies. The Velcrin were usually a serious, dignified species, but watching them roll on the ground laughing while puppies climbed all over them, they looked just like any children playing with pets. A Solari stood nearby with a border collie, practicing herding commands. The bird-like alien had been working with the dog for 3 months now. They moved together like they could read each other's thoughts. In the water section, an Endari was introducing their singing eel to a human swimmer. The eel's song filled the water with beautiful sounds. The human laughed with delight. Victoria Lane walked through the garden with a satisfied smile. As Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, she had negotiated 17 new treaties in 6 months. More treaties than she had managed in the previous 10 years combined. "Ambassador Lane," called a voice. It was a young human woman named Beth Palmer. Beth ran the training program that prepared dogs and handlers for diplomatic assignments. "The Crixian delegation is here." Victoria's smile faded. "Already? I thought they weren't coming until tomorrow." "They arrived early. They're in the main meeting room. And, Ambassador, they brought Captain Vrelzix." Victoria exchanged glances with Jake and Lisa. They had all known this day would come. The Crixians had to apologize to Max as part of their penalty. But having Vrelix himself here was unexpected. "Let's get this over with," Jake said. His hand moved unconsciously to his weapon, even though he was not supposed to be armed in diplomatic meetings. They gathered in the meeting room. It was a large space with windows showing the stars outside. The Crixian delegation sat on one side of the table. There were 5 of them, all tall insect-like beings with shiny green shells. Captain Vrelix sat in the center. He looked smaller somehow. His shell was duller than Danny remembered. He would not look at Max, who sat calmly between Danny and Lisa. Ambassador Victoria spoke first. "Captain Vrelix, you are here to fulfill the Council's requirements. You will apologize to Max for your treatment of him." Vrelix finally looked at the dog. Max looked back with his warm brown eyes, tail wagging slightly. "I do not understand," Vrelix said. His voice was quieter than before, less arrogant. "How can I apologize to a creature that does not speak?" "He understands more than you think," Danny said sharply. "Dogs can read tone. They can read body language. He'll know if you're sincere or not. Vrelix stood up slowly. He walked around the table and stopped in front of Max. He knelt down, which was clearly difficult for his body structure. I was wrong, Vrelix said. He spoke in universal language, but his translator made the words sound genuine. I called you ugly.
I called you a mistake.
I abandoned you to die. I did not understand what you were. I did not understand what you represented. Max's tail wagged faster. He stood up and walked closer to Vrelix. I have spent 6 months watching the broadcasts. Watching what happened because of you. Watching species come together. Watching joy and love spread across the galaxy. The Crixians have never had companions. We thought we did not need such things. We thought we were above emotional bonds. Vrelix reached out one of his clawed hands. He touched Max's head gently, carefully. Max leaned into the touch. But I was wrong, Vrelix continued. We were all wrong. You showed the galaxy something we had forgotten or never known. That love is not weakness. That loyalty is not foolishness. That companionship is not a waste of time. You taught us all. There were tears in Danny's eyes. Even Jake looked emotional, which was rare. Vrelix stood up. I cannot take back what I did, but I can learn from it. The Crixian Collective is establishing a program to study emotional bonding. We want to understand what we have been missing. We want to be better. He looked at Victoria. We would like to request some of Earth's dogs to help us learn. If you will trust us again. If they will trust us again. Victoria considered for a moment. Then she nodded. We'll start small. 1 dog and 1 handler. We'll see how it goes. Lisa stood up and walked over to Vrelix. Thank you for being honest. It takes courage to admit you were wrong. That's the first step toward change. After the Crixians left, Danny sat on the floor with Max. The dog climbed into his lap, even though he was too big for that. Danny hugged him tightly. You did it, buddy. You changed the galaxy. Max just licked Danny's face. He did not care about changing the galaxy. He cared that Danny was his friend. That was enough. That evening, they held a celebration in the garden. Beings from 30 different species came to honor the 6-month anniversary of the trial. There was food from different worlds, music from different cultures, and in the center of it all, dogs played with aliens, cats purred in warm laps, birds sang on shoulders, and creatures of every kind bonded with beings of every species. Charlie West, head of the World Canine Protection Agency, gave a speech. 6 months ago, we learned that 1 dog could change everything. But really, every dog changes everything for someone. Every companion, every bond, every moment of unconditional love changes the world a little bit. Max just did it on a bigger scale. He raised his glass. To Max, who taught the galaxy what humanity has known for 15,000 years. That the best thing in the universe is a friend who loves you no matter what. Everyone raised their glasses. To Max. Max, hearing his name, barked once and wagged his tail. The whole room laughed. Later, Danny recorded a message to send back to Earth. He sat in his quarters with Max asleep on his bed, snoring softly. Hey, Mom and Dad, Danny said to the camera. I know it's been 6 months since I last sent a personal message. Things have been crazy here, but I wanted to tell you something important. He looked at Max. When I found Max, I thought I was just saving a dog. I didn't know I was starting a movement. I didn't know that 1 act of kindness would ripple out across the entire galaxy. He smiled. Max doesn't know he's famous. He doesn't know that there are now 400 dogs in space working as diplomatic companions. He doesn't know that 15 species have established their own companion protection programs. He doesn't know that he's the reason the Velcrin and the Threnians are talking for the first time in 300 years. Danny reached over and scratched behind Max's ears. The dog's tail thumped in his sleep. All Max knows is that he was lost and scared and someone helped him. All he knows is that he has a friend now and a home and people who love him. And maybe that's the lesson. Maybe that's what the galaxy needed to learn. That simple kindness matters. That love matters. That being there for someone when they need you is the most important thing in the universe. He looked back at the camera. The galaxy called Max ugly. They abandoned him. They left him to die. But Max didn't let that make him bitter or angry. He just kept being himself. Loyal. Loving. Trusting. And that changed everything. Danny turned off the camera. He climbed into bed next to Max. The dog shifted and put his head on Danny's chest. Good boy, Max, Danny whispered. Best boy in the whole galaxy. Outside the window, ships from 100 worlds docked and departed. Inside those ships, new companions traveled with their crews. Dogs and cats and birds and creatures from dozens of planets. All protected now. All valued. All loved. Because one golden retriever refused to stop wagging his tail, even when he had every reason to give up hope. Because one man decided that a lost dog was worth saving, even when it seemed like a small thing. Because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest.